My boyfriend said, I could leave you anytime, remember that during a petty fight. I said, noted. Then I made a move so unexpected, he came begging back. The look on his face when he realized. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. It all started, as these big, life-changing moments always do, on a completely ordinary Tuesday. A Tuesday I'd been dreading, not because of anything at home, but because of work. I'd just been given a small promotion in my department, nothing that would make me rich, just a title bump and a tiny, almost insulting raise to my salary, but it meant I was managing a new, high-stakes project. The learning curve was steep, and the pressure was on. I had been pulling 10-hour days for 2 weeks straight, and I was running on fumes and stale office coffee. I remember the feeling of my key in the lock that evening. That's the first thing that sticks out. The feeling of pure, exhausted relief. I was home. I kicked off my sensible work heels, the ones that always pinched my toes by 3 p.m., and let my heavy laptop bag drop to the floor. The apartment was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was in someone's home, but they're in the back room with headphones on way. I walked into the kitchen, and there it was. The battlefield. His breakfast dishes, were still on the counter, crusty with dried egg yolk. A half-empty can of energy drink was sweating on my wooden countertop. And the sink, my God, the sink was overflowing with pans and plates. This was our silent war. I was the primary breadwinner. I paid the $2,200 a month rent on our 2-bedroom apartment, I paid the utilities, I paid for the groceries. His contribution, as a part-time streamer and influencer, was sporadic at best. Some months he'd proudly contribute $500. Most months, it was nothing. So, our deal was simple, I handled the money, he handled the mess. Lately, he hadn't been handling much of anything. I sighed, a deep, bone-weary sigh that came from somewhere in my shoes. I looked at the mess, at the dried-on food, and I just felt defeated. I rolled up the sleeves of my work blouse and turned on the hot water. I just wanted peace. I wanted a hot shower, a cold glass of wine, and an hour of mindless television. I figured I'd just wash the mountain of dishes, and then my boyfriend, Keith, would eventually emerge from his game cave, and we could figure out dinner. I was about halfway through the pans, my back aching, when he appeared. Keith, 28 years old, looking like a teenager in a branded gaming hoodie and plaid pajama pants. He didn't say hello. He didn't thank me for cleaning up his mess. He just opened the fridge, stood there for a full minute, the cold air washing over my ankles, and then let out a heavy, dramatic sigh. Seriously, Brenda? I didn't turn around. I just kept scrubbing a particularly stubborn bit of egg. Seriously what, Keith? This is regular. He held up the carton of oat milk I'd bought the day before. He was holding it like it was a dead rat. Yes. It's oat milk, I said, my voice tight. I specifically, he said, and I could hear him tapping the carton, said the barista blend. The one in the gray carton. This is the store brand. In the blue carton. I stopped scrubbing. I turned off the water. The silence of the kitchen was suddenly very loud, broken only by the drip of the faucet. They were out of the barista blend, Keith. I checked. This works fine. He scoffed. He actually scoffed, like I just suggested we use gutter water. This is exactly the problem, Bren. You never listen. This stuff tastes like chalk. It doesn't foam. How am I supposed to make a decent latte for my stream tomorrow? It's my one big stream of the week. It's oat milk, Keith, I said, my patience shredding. It's going to taste the same in your coffee. It's not about the milk, he snapped. And there it was. The pivot. We were now leaving the land of trivial inconveniences and entering the kingdom of your failings as a partner. It's about you not caring about my needs. It's one thing. The one thing I ask for. Here we go, I said, turning back to the sink. My voice was flat. I was too tired for this. I was too tired for him. The spiral from a minor inconvenience to a full-blown relationship referendum. What did you just say to me? I said, here we go, I repeated, turning to face him, my hands dripping suds onto the floor mat. I drove to 3 stores, Keith. 3. After that 10-hour shift I told you about. I spent an hour of my life, an hour I will never get back, hunting for your special gamer fuel oat milk. They were all out. I bought the next best thing. I'm sorry if that's not good enough for your high-profile streaming career. Gave up, just like you always do, he muttered, just loud enough for me to hear. My hands were wet, and I clenched them into fists. I gave up. A real girlfriend would have found it. I just stared at him. The entitlement. The sheer, unmitigated audacity of the man-child standing in front of me, in a kitchen I paid for, about to complain about the food I bought. I could feel the hot flash of anger crawling up my neck, but I just kept scrubbing. This was his pattern. Small issue becomes a huge fight. Huge fight becomes a threat. I was just waiting for it. And it didn't take long. You know what, he said, his voice rising, sensing he was losing ground. I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done with you not appreciating me. I kept my back to him. Scrub, rinse, stack. I could leave you any time, Brenda. Scrub. Rinse. Stack. Remember that. There it was. His favorite card. The big red I win button he pressed at least twice a month. The threat that used to send me into a spiral of panic, begging, and apologies. The threat that used to make me sick to my stomach, terrified of him walking out that door. I turned off the water. The only sound was the drip, drip, drip. I dried my hands, very slowly, on the dish towel. I folded it. I placed it on the counter. Then I turned around and leaned against the sink. He was standing there, arms crossed, with that smug, defiant look he got when he knew he'd cornered me. He was expecting me to cry, or to yell, or to start in with the, baby, no, please, what can I do? I just looked at him. I let the silence stretch out, let it get uncomfortable. He started to fidget. And I said, noted. That's it. Just one word. Noted. His face faltered. The smugness evaporated. This wasn't in the script. What? That's it? Noted? Yes. Noted, I said. You've made your position clear. You could leave me anytime. I have noted it. What do you want me to say, Bren? He stammered, scrambling for his righteous anger. I want you to care, he finally yelled, finding his footing. I want you to care that I might leave. You threaten to leave every time we disagree about coffee creamer, I said, my voice as cold and flat as I felt. You threaten to leave when I ask you to take out the trash, because it's not his turn, even though it's always my turn. You threaten to leave when I'm too tired from work to watch your stupid stream, or when I pick the wrong movie, or when I hang the toilet paper roll the wrong way. That's because you don't appreciate me, he shouted, his face getting red. You treat me like a roommate. A roommate, I said, would at least pay his half of the rent. That shut him up. But only for a second. He had one more card to play. Do you know how many women want me? He said, puffing his chest out. How many people are in my DMs? They see me. They appreciate me. A bitter, sharp laugh escaped me. I hadn't even realized it was coming. You mean the same ones you text when you're mad at me? He froze. Oh, yeah. I knew. I knew all about them. The emotional support orbiters he kept on standby. I'm not a snoop, I swear. I value privacy more than anything. But about a month ago, I had needed to use my laptop, the one he always borrowed to play games on because it had a better graphics card. I'd asked him 3 times to bring it out, and he finally had, annoyed. And he'd left his Instagram open. Just left it there, on my laptop. The messages were right on the screen, a whole column of them. I don't. He stammered. That's not. How dare you go through my phone? That's a violation of my privacy. I haven't touched your phone, I said calmly. You left your messages open on my laptop. My laptop. Remember? The one I bought with my salary? I walked past him. Gina? Sherry? The one who sends you heart emojis and fire emojis at 2 a.m? Are those the friends who appreciate you so much? Those are just friends. Fans, he sputtered, following me. It's not like that. At least they appreciate me, he said, falling back on his old, sad argument. I could be with any of them tomorrow. Okay, I said, pushing off the counter. I felt a strange, cold calm settle over me. That's your choice. Okay? That's all? You'd just let me go? His voice was high and thin. You said you could leave any time, I said, walking past him toward the living room. I'm just acknowledging that you said it. You have options. You've made that very clear. I picked up my work bag from the floor where I'd dropped it hours ago. So that's it, he said, his voice a mix of disbelief and panic. You're not even going to fight for me? I stopped, my hand on the doorknob of our bedroom. I turned to look at him, really look at him. Not as my boyfriend, but as this person. This 28-year-old man who still acted like a spoiled child. Keith, I said, and my voice was so tired. I am too tired to even fight about milk. I am certainly too tired to fight for a man who threatens to leave me over it. He stared at me. I went into the bedroom. My bedroom, I thought, as I looked at the lease agreement in my head. I locked the door. He stomped to our spare room, his gaming studio, and slammed the door. The standard procedure. The whole apartment vibrated. Usually, this is where I'd wait an hour. I'd sit on the bed, my stomach in knots. I'd feel the guilt and the anxiety build up. What if he really leaves? What will I do? I'd crack first. I'd knock on his door. I'd apologize, promise to do better, promise to find the magical oat milk. Maybe I'd order his favorite Thai food as a peace offering. But not today. Today was different. Today, that one word, noted, had changed something in the air. It was like I'd pulled the pin on a grenade, and now we were both just sitting in the silence, waiting. I sat on the bed for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anxious. I just felt empty. And then, underneath the emptiness, something new. A tiny, hard kernel of something else. Anger? No. Resolve. Instead of ordering Thai food, I went back to the kitchen. The scene of the crime. I finished the last of the dishes. I wiped down the counters, scrubbing away the sticky energy drink ring. I took out the trash. I made the kitchen spotless. Then, I went to the fridge. I pulled out the wrong oat milk. I made myself a cup of coffee, a decaf. I poured a splash of the chalky, regular, store-brand milk in. I took a sip. It tasted fine. I took my coffee to the living room, sat on the couch, and opened my laptop. Not to work. Not to browse. I opened my banking app. See, Keith had been threatening to leave for 2 years. He used it like a weapon. Every disagreement ended with "I could leave any time," but he never did. And as I sat there, looking at the cold, hard numbers on the screen, I finally understood why he never did. He couldn't afford to. I looked at my accounts. My salary from the new promotion was steady. My savings, while not huge, were healthy. I had a good credit score. Then I looked at the monthly expenses. I paid the $2,200 rent. I paid the $300 utilities. I paid the $800 grocery bill, which was insane, mostly for his energy drinks and delivery. I paid for the streaming services he used for his job. Then I thought about his income. His part-time influencer and streamer income. He'd brag about a good month where he pulled in maybe $800. Most months, it was closer to $400. It barely covered his car payment, his credit card debt, and his precious gaming subscriptions. His threats were empty. They were the desperate bluffs of a man who knew, deep down, that leaving meant moving back in with his parents in Ohio, or finding one of those orbiters who was willing to fund his entire lifestyle. And Gina and Sherry, with their heart emojis, probably weren't offering to pay his rent. A cold, hard thought entered my head. But what if leaving wasn't his choice anymore? What if I made it easy for him? What if, instead of begging him to stay, I just opened the door? Held it open for him? I took another sip of my coffee. It was tasting better by the minute. I closed my banking app and opened a new tab. Then I made a call. "Hey, Tasha," I said when she picked up. Her voice was bright. "Brenda." "Hey. What's up? I thought you'd be asleep." "Long night," I said. "Hey, are you still looking for a new roommate? Did you find anyone?" "Ugh, no," Tasha said. "My current roommate is moving out at the end of the month to get married, and I've been covering the full rent for 2 months while she does whatever she does. It's killing me. My landlord is getting antsy." "Why, you know someone?" "Maybe," I said, looking at the closed door to his game room. I could hear the faint sound of him shouting at a video game. "What's the timeline?" "ASAP. Seriously. I'll take anyone who isn't a serial killer at this point." "Cool," I said. Let me get back to you. I might have a solution." I hung up. I opened my laptop again. And I started a very, very interesting project. I wasn't just apartment hunting. I was planning. The next day, the plan unfolded beautifully. Or, well, my plan did. Keith's usual script went right out the window. Day 1 after the fight, let's call it the oat milk standoff, Keith emerged from the game room around noon. I, on the other hand, had been up since 6. I'd woken up on the couch, my neck stiff, but I'd felt lighter. I showered, got dressed for work, even though I was working from home. I put on makeup. I made coffee. And I sat at the kitchen table, which I had designated as my new office, and I was already 3 hours deep into my project report. He had that puffy, slept-in look, and he was clearly expecting the usual apology ritual. He was expecting to find me on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, looking miserable, my eyes red from crying. He was expecting to find a peace offering, maybe I'd made him coffee. Instead, he found me. Dressed. Alert. Working. And sipping a coffee. Made with the regular, non-barista blend, tastes like chalk oat milk. He shuffled past me to the coffee pot. He poured a cup, stared into it, and then sighed. It was the "I'm still mad, please notice" sigh. It was so loud and practiced, it was almost funny. I didn't look up. "Good morning," I said, my fingers still flying across the keyboard. He grunted. He stood there, waiting. I kept typing. The only sound was my keyboard clicking. Finally, he couldn't take the silence. So, he said, leaning against the counter in that way he did when he wanted to be confrontational, crossing his arms. Anything to say? I finally looked up, blinking like I was pulling myself out of a deep work trance. I pushed my glasses up. About what? About what? He scoffed, his voice dripping with disbelief. About last night. About this. He waved his hand between us. About you being a complete bitch. Oh, I said. I took a sip of my coffee. Good morning to you, too. And I smiled, a tight little smile that didn't reach my eyes. That's it, he said, his voice rising. No apology? An apology for what, Keith? I asked, genuinely curious to see where he'd go with this. I tilted my head. For dismissing my feelings. For buying the wrong milk. For everything. Ah. Well, I'm not going to apologize for that, I said. I acknowledged your feelings. You could leave any time, remember? I gave him another little smile and went back to my email. He just stared. I could feel his eyes boring into the side of my head. This wasn't the script. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to be in control. I was supposed to be the one groveling, the one terrified of being alone. He huffed, so you're giving me the silent treatment, then. Real mature, Bren. Real professional. I'm working, Keith, I said, not looking up. I have a deadline for my new project. The one that pays for this apartment and your special milk. Not everything is about you. I heard a sharp intake of breath. Then he slammed his coffee mug down on the counter, splashing cold coffee on the surface I had just wiped down. Fine, he yelled, like a child. Be that way. He stomped back into the game room, and the door slammed shut. A few minutes later, I heard his phone camera click from the other room. Sure enough, I checked Instagram later. A new cryptic story. A selfie of him looking thoughtful and pained, the blinds creating stripes of shadow on his face. The caption, when they show you who they really are, believe them. #KnowYourWorth. I almost laughed. Oh, I was showing him who I really was, all right. Someone who was done playing. Someone who had just opened a new spreadsheet titled Project, New Life. Day 2, I started phase 1 of my little project. I was apartment hunting. But not for me. I had a perfectly good, 2-bedroom apartment. I was apartment hunting for him. I went online and did a quick search. I put in his, let's call it optimistic, price range. What could he actually afford, if he really buckled down and got a second job? I was generous. I put in $650 a month, max. I found one. It was something. A tiny studio apartment in a rough neighborhood, a good 40-minute drive from anywhere he'd want to be. The photos were grainy, taken on a bad camera phone. They showed a stained, mustard yellow carpet. The kitchen was basically a hot plate, a mini fridge, and a sink that looked like it hadn't been scrubbed since the 1980s. The one window looked out onto a brick wall. But it was available immediately. And it was exactly $650 a month. I copied the link. I opened my email. I sent it to him. Subject line, helpful option. He didn't come out of the room. He was still giving me the silent treatment from his man cave. But my phone buzzed with a text. From the other side of the wall. Keith, what is this? Me, an affordable option for when you leave. Just trying to be helpful. The 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. He was furious. I could almost feel the vibration of his anger through the drywall. Keith, are you kicking me out? Me, no. You said you could leave anytime. I'm facilitating. Keith, this place is a dump. I'm not living in a crack house. It's what $650 a month gets you. Your budget, right? He left me on read. The bedroom door didn't open for another 3 hours. When he finally came out, he tried a different approach. The anger hadn't worked, so it was time for the pour me routine. Baby, he said, his voice all soft and wounded. He was standing in the kitchen doorway. I was still at the table, now comparing utility costs. I looked up from my laptop. We are talking. I made dinner, he said, gesturing to the kitchen. I looked over. He had made dinner in the same way that a 5-year-old makes breakfast. He had heated up the leftover pizza I had bought 2 days ago. He'd even put it on a paper plate. A single, sad paper plate. Thanks, but I ate at work, I said. A white lie. I was starving, but I wasn't about to eat his cold, greasy peace offering. You never eat at work, he pouted. This was his go-to wounded look. I've started meal prepping, I said, tapping my laptop. I'm trying to cut down on expenses. Saving money. The panic in his eyes was new. It was faint, but it was there, a little flicker in the back of his eyes. Saving money? For what? Life changes, I said with a shrug. A divorce. A funeral. A big move. You never know. It's just good to be prepared. This was usually the part where I'd cave. He'd look at me with those big, sad eyes, and I'd melt. I'd feel guilty. I'd apologize. I'd promise to buy the right milk. I'd reaffirm how much I needed him, how I couldn't live without him. But I was looking at that new, flickering panic in his eyes, and I realized I wasn't melting. I was interested. I wanted to see what would happen if I just didn't. Day 3 brought the love bombing. This was his next to last resort. When anger and pity failed, he'd pivot to being the perfect, charming boyfriend I'd first fallen for. The one who was funny, and sweet, and, well, hadn't existed for about 2 years. I woke up on the couch, I'd been sleeping there since the fight, it was just easier, to the smell of actual cooking. Not leftover pizza. Bacon. Eggs. Toast. Keith was in the kitchen, actually making breakfast, not just pouring cereal. He was wearing my favorite Kiss the Cook apron, the one I'd bought as a joke. He smiled, a big, bright, nothing is wrong smile. Morning, sleepyhead, he said, his voice all sunshine. Thought you'd like a nice breakfast before work. Thanks, I said, wary. I sat at the table. He served me a plate. It was a lot. A mountain of eggs, half a pack of bacon. It was the first time he'd made me breakfast in, I realized, over a year. He'd done it for a stream once, but not for me. So, he said, sitting down across from me, all eager. I was thinking. I've been a total jerk. I'm sorry about the milk. It was stupid. I miss you. Maybe we could spend the day together today? Just us. Like old times. We could go to the park, maybe catch a movie? My treat. My treat always meant I paid and he forgot his wallet, but I let that slide. Can't, I said, taking a bite of eggs. They were a little rubbery. I'm helping Tasha move some furniture. His smile faltered, just a fraction. Tasha? Since when are you two so chummy? I thought you said she was driving you crazy about her roommate drama. Since she might need a roommate, I said, looking him straight in the eye. And I'm helping her move. It's the least I can do. His face went pale. Paler than the regular oat milk. You're not moving in with Tasha? Not me, I said, taking another bite. But I know someone who might need a place soon. Someone who could leave any time. He didn't threaten to leave for the rest of the week. Not once. The words were poison on his tongue, and he knew it. But the entitlement, the anger, it came out in other ways. He started demanding to know where I was. It was like he'd suddenly realized I had a life outside of him, and he needed to control it. He'd text me constantly when I was at work. "Who are you with? Why did it take you 10 minutes to text me back? Are you really at work?" I was in my office, in a meeting with my new team, trying to sound competent and in control. My phone buzzed for the 8th time. I'd silenced it, but it was vibrating off the desk. I excused myself. "Keith, you're acting suspicious." I rolled my eyes. I typed back. "Me, I'm in a meeting." "Keith, with who? That guy Mark from your old team? You always liked him." "Me, I'm acting single." The text was a typo. I'd meant to write "I'm in a meeting" again, but my fingers, in a moment of Freudian clarity, had typed single. I looked at it. And I hit send. The 3 dots appeared. "Keith, we're not single." "Me, but you could leave any time." "I'm just preparing for that possibility." He didn't text back for a while. But my work phone rang almost immediately. It was an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then, on day 5, he tried recruiting allies. My personal phone rang. It was his best friend, Marcus. I sighed and answered it. I liked Marcus, in a bless-his-heart kind of way. He was married, a decent guy, but completely blind to Keith's faults. "Brenda?" "Hey, it's Marcus." "What's going on?" "Hey, Marcus." "Not much, just working." "What's up?" I just got off the phone with Keith. He's freaking out." "He said you're trying to kick him out?" "He said you sent him a link to a crack house?" I leaned back in my office chair, rubbing my temples. "Of course he did. I'm not doing anything, Marcus. I'm just taking him seriously." "Seriously about what?" "He says he could leave me anytime. He says it constantly. So, I'm just helping him explore his options." There was a long pause on the other end. "Brenda, come on," Marcus said, and his voice was wheedling. "You know he doesn't mean it. That's just how he is. It's how he expresses frustration. He's sensitive." "By threatening our relationship every week?" I asked. "By threatening to abandon me?" "That's not sensitive, Marcus, that's manipulative. Cool communication style. You should try it with your wife, see how that goes." "Hey, that's not fair." "No," I agreed. "It's not. Look, I'm not kicking him out, Marcus. But I'm not begging him to stay, either. He's a grown man. He can make his own decisions." "You're being petty, Bren. He loves you. He's a lot." "I'm being practical," I said, and hung up. Day 7. The end of the first week. The real, unadulterated panic finally set in. I came home from work, and for the first time, he was on the laptop at the kitchen table. And he was the one looking at rental websites. Actually, properly looking. "Everything's so expensive," he whispered, mostly to himself. He hadn't even heard me come in. "Yeah," I said, dropping my bag. "Housing costs are rough these days." He jumped, startled, and slammed the laptop shut like I'd caught him doing something shameful. "How am I supposed to afford $1,500 a month for a decent place?" he demanded, as if this was my fault. "Even a studio is, like, $1,800. "Roommates," I suggested, shrugging out of my coat. "A second job. Those girls in your DMs. The ones who appreciate you. Sherry? Gina? Maybe they're looking for a roommate. He stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. This is abusive, he yelled. You're financially abusing me. You know I can't afford that. I'm showing you apartments, I said, my voice dangerously calm. I'm the one who's been paying for your entire life for 2 years. You're the one who wants to leave. You can't have it both ways, Keith. You can't hold my love and my salary hostage at the same time. I don't want to leave, he finally screamed. The words hung in the air, naked and desperate. Then why, I said, walking right up to him, do you threaten it every single week? Because, he sputtered. Because. Because you think I'll beg you to stay, I finished for him. Silence. A thick, heavy silence. He couldn't even look at me. I'm tired, Keith, I said, my voice breaking a little, the first crack in my armor. I'm so tired of being threatened. So either stay, and stop using leaving as a weapon. Or actually leave. But this middle ground manipulation? It ends. Now. He stared at me, his mouth open. Then his face crumpled. But not in sadness. In anger. He fled to the bedroom, and the door slammed shut again. A few minutes later, another Instagram story. When he shows you who he really is, believe him. Yeah, I thought, pulling a pre-prepped meal prep container from the fridge. I was showing him someone who wouldn't be manipulated anymore. And he just couldn't handle it. Week 2. Oh, week 2 was when things got magnificent. If you've ever heard the term extinction burst, this was a textbook example. It's what happens when a behavior that used to get a reward suddenly gets nothing. The behavior doesn't just stop. It gets louder, more frantic, and more desperate before it finally dies. Keith's extinction burst was spectacular. Since the love bombing, the pity ploys, and the recruiting of allies had all failed, he moved on to his nuclear option, jealousy. He started by activating the orbiters. Suddenly, his Instagram, which I was no longer checking, he was just being loud about it, was full of him hanging out with friends. Translation: the backup girlfriends, the DM girls, were being tested. I'd be on the couch, trying to read a book, and he'd be pacing the living room, phone in hand, narrating his own popularity. Wow, Sherry just posted a picture of us from that stream, she's so funny, he'd say to the empty air. That's nice, I'd murmur, not looking up. Gina's asking me about that new coffee place. She says she's dying to try it. Cool. He'd leave his phone strategically placed on the coffee table, notifications up, so I'd see the messages rolling in. Gorgeous as always, from Sherry. Coffee was fun. Next time dinner, from Gina. Oh, just some friends, he'd say, picking up the phone with a flourish. You don't mind, right, Bren? Why would I? I'd say, turning a page. You could leave any time for any of them. I'm happy you have options. It's good to have a backup plan. That was not the reaction he wanted. Not at all. You really don't care, do you? He'd ask, his voice a mix of disbelief and anger. I care, I'd say, finally looking at him. I care about our relationship. But I won't be held hostage by threats. If you want to go get coffee with Gina, go. Be an adult. Make your own choices. Just let me know if you need me to pack you a lunch. He escalated. He started bringing these friends up in conversation at all the worst times. We were in the grocery store, in a tense, silent truce to buy food. You know, he said, looking at the wine selection. Sherry has a Tesla. A Model S. She offered to take me to that winery up in the valley. Cool, I said, grabbing a bottle of cheap red. Have fun. Bring back a bottle. You're letting me go on a date, he sputtered, right there in the wine aisle. Is it a date, Keith? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Or is it just a friend thing? No. But it could be. Then go. Or don't. Your choice. I pushed the cart away. He didn't go. Of course he didn't. Sherry probably didn't even have a Tesla. But he did have Gina pick him up for lunch. I was working from home that day. He made sure of it. He spent an hour getting ready, more time than he'd spent on our last anniversary. He put on a nice shirt. He used product in his hair. He even put on cologne. Then he stood by the living room window. She's here, he announced. I looked up from my laptop. A sleek, black Mercedes sedan was idling at the curb. I had to admit, Gina had taste. Have fun, I said. Don't forget your key. He slammed the door. I watched him get in the car. Gina, a woman with very blonde hair, was at the wheel. They drove off. I went back to my spreadsheet. My project was actually starting to come together. I felt a surge of pride. I was good at my job. I was competent. I was fine. 2 hours later, he came back, and he was furious. I was on a Zoom call, so I just heard the front door slam. He stormed into the bedroom. When I finished my call, I found him pacing, his face red and blotchy. What's wrong? I asked, leaning against the doorframe. Lunch not good? You didn't even text to check on me, he exploded. I was baffled. Check on you? You're an adult. On a lunch date. It wasn't a date, he yelled. And you should have been worried. Worried about what, Keith? I asked, and the coldness in my own voice surprised me. Worried you'd get a free meal? Worried that Gina would realize you're a 28-year-old man-child who lives off his girlfriend? Worried she'd try to poach my, what, exactly? My financial dependent? The truth was starting to dawn on him. His threats, his little games, they only worked if I cared. And I had just stopped. I'd stopped playing. So, on day 10, he brought out the final, dramatic, nuclear option. He started packing. But not like a person who is actually moving. Oh no. He was packing like a character in a bad soap opera. It was slow. It was dramatic. It was loud. He'd pull a single t-shirt out of a drawer, look at it, sigh heavily, and then fold it. Badly. He'd drop a box. He'd sigh. He'd rip packing tape in the most obnoxious way possible, pulling it slow so it shrieked. I was in the living room, trying to watch a show. He was making it impossible. I guess I'll start looking for movers, he announced from the bedroom doorway, holding a single sneaker. I know a guy, I said, not looking away from the TV. My friend Tasha just used him. Want his number? His face crumpled. You're really going to let me go? Let you? I said, finally pausing the show. Keith, you said you could leave any time. I believe you. You are a man of your word. You're leaving. He threw the sneaker. It hit the wall with a dull thud. 3 years, he yelled. We've been together for 3 years and this is how it ends? With you just following through on your threats? My threats? I stood up. I'm not the one who threatened anything. You did. You're the one packing. I'm just sitting here. Watching Netflix. I can't believe you're not fighting for us, he cried, and now the real tears were coming. Angry, frustrated tears. I fought for us, I said, and my voice was so tired. I fought for us for 2 years, Keith. Every time you threatened to leave, I begged you to stay. I told you how much I loved you. I apologized for things that weren't my fault. I'm tired. I'm done fighting. He stopped packing. He sat down hard on one of the boxes he'd messily taped up. He looked small. What if? He said, his voice quiet. What if I stopped saying it? Saying what? That I could leave. Could you? I asked. It's your favorite power move. It's the only one you have. It's not about power, he insisted, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. Then what's it about, Keith? He whispered. I need to know you care. By threatening to abandon our relationship, I said. It wasn't a question. By holding me emotionally hostage. That's not love, Keith. That's toxic. And I'm done. He started to cry again, but I was just empty. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anger. I just felt done. But here's where it got interesting. Remember my friend, Tasha? The one who was looking for a roommate and who I'd helped move some furniture. Well, I had helped her. I'd helped her move some boxes out of her old place, and I'd helped her look at some new ones. And she'd found a place she loved. In a great building. Good amenities, close to her work, right on the bus line. I mentioned it casually, while Keith was sitting there on his box of sadness. Oh, I said, as if I'd just remembered. Speaking of which, I'm so excited. Tasha's taking 4B. The 2-bedroom upstairs. She's moving in on the first. Keith's head snapped up. What? Yeah, her current place is too far from her new job. This building is perfect. But that's... He stammered, that's our building. Yeah, I said, grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge. We'll be neighbors. Well, I corrected myself, looking him right in the eye, Tasha and I will. It'll be fun. We can have game nights. She's bringing her dog. A golden retriever. I love golden retrievers. The implication hit him like a physical blow. I wasn't moving. I wasn't changing my life. I wasn't falling apart. I was just continuing. Without him. I was replacing the roommate who threatened to leave with a roommate who actually wanted to be there. You planned this, he whispered. Planned what? Having a friend move nearby? Don't be paranoid. You're replacing me, he yelled, jumping up. You're replacing me with Tasha. I took a long, slow sip of my water. Keith, I said, you can't replace something that threatens to leave every single week. You can only replace something that was gone to begin with. He stared at me, his mouth open. The fight was gone. The tears were gone. All that was left was shock. He didn't say another word. He just walked into the bedroom, shut the door, and that night, I heard the sound of packing tape being unpacked. 1 month later. The complete, and very public, meltdown. The 3 weeks after the fake packing incident, or unpackgate, as I'd started calling it in my head, were the strangest of my life. Keith had tried everything. After unpacking, he tried the love bombing again. He'd tried the silent treatment. He'd tried the jealousy with his orbiters. Nothing worked. I remained pleasant, but detached. I treated him exactly like what he'd positioned himself as, someone with one foot out the door. A temporary guest. A roommate, and not even a very good one. The tension in our apartment was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. He was walking on eggshells, and I was just walking. I went to work. I got my promotion finalized, with the new salary. I went to the gym. I had coffee with Tasha, who was now my neighbor upstairs. My life was moving forward. His was at a standstill. The final act took place at his brother's 30th birthday dinner. We were all at a loud, expensive Italian restaurant. His parents, his brother, and his new fiancée, his aunt and uncle. It was a scene. Keith had insisted we go, plastering on a fake smile and holding my hand very tightly as we walked in. He was trying to project perfect couple. I was just trying to get through the appetizers. His family noticed the dynamic shift. They'd always seen me as the quiet, anxious, slightly too eager to please girlfriend. Tonight, I was just quiet. "Brenda, you're so quiet tonight," his mom, a woman with sharp eyes and sharper jewelry, said from across the table. "Just enjoying the meal," I said, forcing a smile. "The lasagna is wonderful." "He's been weird lately, right, babe?" Keith said, laughing a laugh that was pure nerves. He squeezed my hand under the table, hard. "Have I?" I asked, pulling my hand away to take a sip of water. "Trouble in paradise?" his brother asked, trying to make a joke. "No," Keith said, way too quickly. "No, we're perfect. Right? Tell them, Brenda. We're great." I set my water glass down. The table was quiet. Everyone was looking at me. Keith was looking at me, his eyes wide, silently begging me to play along. And I just couldn't. Not anymore. "We're working through some things," I said. "Oh, come on, Bren," Keith said, trying to laugh it off. "She's just stressed from her new promotion." He said the word promotion like it was a dirty secret. "No," I said, my voice quiet but clear. The clinking of silverware stopped. "We're working through the fact that Keith likes to threaten to leave me." Silence. Pin drop silence at the table. "Well," I continued, "he says he could leave any time. He reminds me of that, weekly." His dad, a big, stoic man, put his fork down. "What does that mean, Keith?" She's exaggerating," Keith stammered. "It's not." "I don't." "Keith," his mom said, and her voice was sharp. "Do you threaten to leave this girl?" "Not threaten," he said, I just remind her that I have options." "That's the same thing, you idiot," his brother muttered. The family dynamic, which had always been so stacked against me, shifted. It was like a spotlight had been turned on, and I was no longer the one squinting. They always wondered why I seemed anxious, why I seemed to be trying so hard. And now they knew. The car ride home was silent. I could feel the anger radiating off Keith in waves. The second the apartment door clicked shut, he exploded. "How could you?" he screamed, throwing his keys at the wall. "How could you embarrass me like that? In front of my family? By telling the truth?" I asked, slipping off my heels. "You made me look crazy. You made me look manipulative." "I didn't make you look like anything, Keith," I said, walking to the bedroom. "You did that all on your own." He was quiet the whole ride home. But the real shock came the next day. I came home from work. I was tired. I was ready for the week to be over. I opened the door, and the apartment was different. It was quiet. But a new kind of quiet. An empty quiet. I walked into the living room. It was clean. I walked into the kitchen. It was spotless. And then I saw it. On the kitchen counter. A single, white envelope with my name on it. I opened it. It wasn't a letter. It was a key. His apartment key. I walked to the bedroom. His side of the closet was empty. The drawers were open. His gaming console was gone. His pile of sneakers by the door, gone. He had actually done it. He'd left. I sat down on the couch. I should have felt something. Relief? Sadness? But I just felt numb. He hadn't left without one last parting shot. I got a text. Keith, I'm gone. Went to my brother's. I'll have Marcus get the last of my stuff next week. Me, okay. Keith, that's it? Okay? Keith, you know what, Brenda? I found the apartment listings. The ones you saved in your bookmarks. I froze. What was he talking about? Keith, they're all studios. All one-bedrooms. All for one person. All in that new building downtown, the one with the pool. Oh. Those bookmarks. Keith, you were looking for places for yourself. Not for me. You were already planning to leave me. There it was. The thing he had never, ever considered. Me, my lease is up in 2 months, Keith. I was exploring options. Keith, without me. Me, you could leave any time. Why would I plan a future with someone who's always halfway gone? The phone rang immediately. I answered it. I didn't mean it, he screamed, and his voice was thick with tears. Real tears, this time. Not angry tears. Scared tears. Which time, Keith? I asked, my voice tired. The 100th time? The 200th? I love you, he sobbed. I don't want to leave. I was just scared. Scared you'd leave me. You got that promotion, you've been working so hard. I thought. You thought you'd control me, I finished. You thought you'd keep me small and scared so I'd never realize I was better off without you. No, he cried. No, I'll change. I promise. I'll get a real job. I'll buy the right milk. You love controlling me, I said, and I finally understood it myself. There's a difference. Brenda, please, he begged. Don't do this. If I leave now, if this is how it ends, that's it. No second chances. I won't come begging back. It was one last, pathetic attempt at a threat. Okay, I said. I mean it, he yelled. This is it. This is your last chance to stop me. I heard you the first time, Keith, I said. And I hung up. If you're still listening, please help me out by liking this video and commenting the number 1 below, just so I know you're still here. It tells me you're on this journey with me, and honestly, your support means the world to me. It keeps me going. Please, just comment the number 1 so I know you're here, and then I'll tell you what happened next. Okay. So, he left. He went to his brother's, just like he said. And true to his word, he posted all over Instagram about new beginnings and knowing your worth and cutting toxic people out of his life. He went to stay with Gina, the one with the Mercedes. He posted stories from her fancy apartment. It lasted exactly 1 week. The text started at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Keith, can we talk? I was asleep. I saw it in the morning. I deleted it. The next night. 3 a.m. Keith, I made a mistake. Gina's a creep. She's got all these weird rules and she expects me to pay for half of everything. I deleted it. The next night. 2:30 a.m. Keith, I didn't mean any of it. Please. I need to come home. I'll never threaten to leave again. I see what I had now. I'm begging you. Please respond. I have nowhere to go. I didn't respond. I blocked his number. But I did see him. About a week later. I was coming home from the gym, sweaty, in my old t-shirt, and I was happy. Genuinely happy. Tasha and I were planning a game night. I was killing it on my project at work. The apartment was clean. I walked into the lobby of my building, and there he was. He was talking to the building manager. He looked terrible. He was skinny, pale, and he was wearing the same hoodie he'd had on for, I'm guessing, a week. He was touring apartments. In my building. He saw me. His face went through about 5 different emotions. Shock. Hope. Shame. Anger. And then, desperation. "Brenda," he said, walking over to me. "Hi, Keith," I said, shifting my gym bag. "I'm just looking at places," he said, gesturing vaguely. "Cool," I said. "Good luck." I started to walk toward the elevator. "Wait," he said, grabbing my arm. I yanked it back. "Brenda, please. Maybe we could talk? Get coffee?" "I'm good, Keith," I said. The building manager walked by, nodding at me. "Ms. Hayes," she said, all professional. "Just wanted to let you know, Tasha's all moved in. Are you two still planning that game night? The neighbors are complaining about the noise from 4B's old tenant, but she seems lovely." "Friday," I smiled. "Should be fun." "Thanks, Maria." Keith watched me. He watched me living my life. The life he'd threatened to leave so many times. The life that was going on perfectly fine, in fact, better, without him. "I could really use a friend right now, Bren," he whispered, and his eyes were wet. I looked at him. Really looked at him. The man I'd loved. The man I'd been so afraid to lose. "Gina has a Mercedes," I said. "Maybe she can drive you to find some." I walked away. I got in the elevator. I didn't look back. Last I heard, he moved into that studio. The one on the first floor. The one I'd sent him the link to, all those weeks ago. The $650 one. He posts a lot about independent man life and the grind. But Tasha told me she sees him all the time. He's working 3 jobs, one at a coffee shop, one delivering for DoorDash, and one at a call center, just to afford it. His bio on Instagram, I'm told, now reads, "Sometimes the best thing you can do is leave." And the funny thing is, he's right. He just never thought I'd be the one to realize it first. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been in a situation like this, or if you're in one now, just know your own worth. And never be afraid to call their bluff. Please, share your own stories in the comments. I read them. And like and subscribe if you want to hear more. And so, this story reminds us of a powerful truth: knowing your worth is the foundation of every healthy relationship. It's easy to lose ourselves in the fear of being alone, to compromise our happiness for someone who doesn't truly value us. But the moment we choose self-respect over fear, we reclaim our power. Brenda's journey shows us that strength doesn't come from loud declarations or dramatic gestures, it comes from quiet resolve, from the courage to stop tolerating what doesn't serve us and to let go of what holds us back. This isn't just about relationships, it's about life. It's about recognizing when something is draining us instead of lifting us, and having the bravery to walk away, even when it's hard. Her story teaches us that true love and respect should never be conditional or manipulative, and that sometimes, the best way to move forward is to let go. If this reflection resonates with you, share your thoughts below or simply comment good to let us know this lesson mattered to you. Your voice matters, and your story could inspire someone else today.